Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel for Celtic fans all over the world. Because from a distance, the world looks green and green. Classic intro. Okay, so show times first. Let's do that, shall we? As always. Where in the world are you watching from? That's the question. And do any of these times suit you? Now you'll see that we've changed some of the locations to places that mean a little bit more to us here at the Celtic World. We have Sydney, we have Seoul in Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, Abu Dhabi, who've been on as a CSC, Rome, thanks to Mickey in Finnegan's, Parkhead, and our friends in Pittsburgh. So hopefully you can find out what time is good for live streaming. It's very difficult with all these daylight saving changes, but the good news is we're working on some very interesting guests to appear over the next few weeks. There's a November international break coming up, so we're trying to plan ahead and bring you some top quality, totally free Celtic entertainment. So the least you can do is like and subscribe, you know what I'm saying? Who do we have with us today? We are but 3 people, but I couldn't think of 2 better chaps in whose company to be. Paul in Australia, how you doing?
Pretty good, Gav. Thank you.
And David in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Very specific.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. All right. So what's coming up on today's show? I'll just have to find the menu. And it is this. First of all, we're going to be talking, as the title of the show is, Buddies Smoked. That's a little reference to 420 somewhere. It's probably in the comments. But did we beat the Buddies? Was the question posed. Number 2, GB News. GB standing for?
The Green Brigade.
Yes. Number 3, County Down. The game coming up against Ross County. And we're counting down to that County Down. Number 4, Spanish Eyes. We're going to take a little glance forward at Atletico. I know these are tortured introductions, aren't they? I can see you wincing, Paul.
It's the wordplay. It's you've gone crazy with it this week, Gav.
Spanish Eyes. Looking forward to the Atletico game because it's the last time we'll speak before that game. And then Celtic socials. So that's all coming up. Very exciting. We're having a few comments here. People saying good morning. Let me do this and then that. And we will commence, as promised, with the St Mirren game review. First of all, starting lineup. Any surprises, Paul?
Well, a few, I would say. I think we thought there would be rotation, but I didn't think most of us would have expected to see Cameron Carter-Vickers start. So that was probably the first jump out. And obviously Phillips started in his place. And then 2 other changes. Obviously Turnbull was promoted to the start. We'll get into detail, but I probably had a bit of a mixed bag. And then James Forrest was promoted to the wing position as well, and gave me a rest. So probably expected some changes. Not sure I expected those, but we do need to start using the squad through this next couple of month period. So not a massive surprise to see some changes, but yeah, maybe the personnel was a little eye raising.
Okay, and then straight into the first half, we went behind from a pretty straightforward cross into the box. Phillips didn't do much to stop the cross coming in. Headed in by McMenamin, unmarked in the middle of the box. Scales and Taylor looking at each other. David, how come he got a free header?
So their legs looked very tired, didn't they? It was almost that they were taken aback and they didn't expect a cross to come in. And they looked static. And so, I mean, fair play to him. He took his ball well, and I don't think Joe Hart had much of a chance with it. But from a defensive point of view, I thought that was pretty poor. And it spoke to the rest of the team as well in terms of the overall performance. I felt that we were sluggish, stringing passes together, or sometimes we were passing too much, holding on to the ball, allowing them opportunity. I think that was part of the problem as well. So yeah, that wasn't a very good start to the game, was it?
Who's to blame, Paul, for that goal in the defence?
I'll give you a couple, or 2 or 3. Actually, it's always it's always a bit of a team effort. They are allowed to move the ball through midfield far too easily. There's not enough pressure on the ball. That's part one. I don't know. AJ kind of gets caught, so Phillips comes across. So he sort of leaves his position. And I think a big part of this that I haven't really seen mentioned very much is Maida being missing from that side. If he's on the pitch, there's no way that cross comes in. That's my view. He's over there double teaming the winger, and there's not a chance that ball gets anywhere near the box. But he isn't, and Forrest isn't pressing. Phillips comes over to try and help. Doesn't do enough. Ball comes in. Scales similar to the Boyle chance against Hibs. He gets caught well out of position. He gets under it. And Taylor is, admittedly, he's got somebody over his shoulder, but the immediate danger is the guy that sticks it in the back of the net, and he's caught ball watching as well. So there's pretty much none of the back line cover themselves in glory, but it's a team effort, and the balls move far too easily to that from one side of it's a big switch of play, really, that sort of brings it to that side. And we're just caught on our heels, snapping. It's just poor. And Roger speaks a lot about fast starts, and we're not really doing it. So that's 2
Yeah, he
games
was
in a
going
row
on
where
about it before the game. I'm pretty sure he was
bemoaned
hammering
the
it
fact
home with the
he must have
players.
been, but I don't know. They're and David's right. For a good chunk of certainly the first half, but a lot of the match, first half more so, there was just a disjointed element to the play again. Balls passed behind each other, left short, people having to stretch, just poor. Cal McGregor, uncharacteristically, one of the main culprits of that during the first period. But lots of them were in a similar boat. So yeah, it just wasn't great.
Yeah, you were lagging a little bit there, Paul. I've just stopped. I had the share screen set up, and I've just turned that off to see if that will address the situation. You're looking a bit better. Right, absolutely. We then had a lot of possession, and Palma was getting a lot of the ball, but without getting past Strain much all night. He looked like a likely source of invention, particularly once when he received the ball quite centrally and very quickly took a touch and got the shot away. If you remember that moment. Our goal came from O'Reilly, trying not to lose possession after another underhit pass from Taylor.
Yeah.
Around the corner of their box. He manages to poke it out to Turnbull. And then Brendan had been talking up the Bulls' goal threat before the game, and so it proved. David, was that good management? Were you surprised by Turnbull weighing in with a goal?
I think it's possibly. I mean, Turnbull can do that, and he can do it against teams like St Mirren. And I think we've always said that. And where Turnbull usually gets exposed is with high-paced games against a better quality opposition. So and we've known that he can score, right? So we've seen that at the beginning of the season. It's not that he can't score; it's the questionable game and involvement he has between those goals. He's and then I honestly didn't like his bit of attitude with the fingers in the ears, and then he misses a penalty. I think something about having his head in the game. I think his involvement may be something that we talk about, which is the depth of squad again when it keeps coming up, and maybe this is the game post European hangover, etc., that really sort of points us to say we need to do something. If we've got Forrest starting, Turnbull, I don't think can hack it at this level. Maybe a bench player at times. Maybe he can get these occasional goals. But I think Forrest days are up. I think for me, there is maybe some light in people like Yang, maybe Holm, etc. Maybe we need to think about working with Kyogo up front. So yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get to all that stuff, I think, if we run through the events of the game first. Next event was the penalty. On a scale of 1 to 10, Paul, how surprised were you that it was Turnbull to take it and that it wasn't scored?
So I was not surprised in the slightest that it was Turnbull. He was the designated penalty taker when on the pitch, and then it was Hatate, and obviously he's now missed one. So it was not surprised at all he took it. It was quite a surprise that he missed, especially in exactly the same way as Hatate did when he missed his. So it leaves us yet another issue of need a penalty taker, and it's kind of ridiculous how bad we are at set pieces, including penalties.
It really is.
It's a free hit. It should be a goal every time, and we seem to miss more than we score. And even the ones we score look scruffy. So I think I messaged some of my local lads here after the match, and I said, Friday, Matt O'Reilly, an hour penalties. We need a new penalty taker. It needs to be somebody that starts every game. He's my pick. You know, he takes corners. He's got a wand of a left foot. Just, you know, get him on pens and get him working on it. I see Ali saying, why does our main striker not take penalties? Well, he's only taken, I think I mentioned this in either this show or another show, he was only taking 3 in his career, 2 in Japan, 1 in the J League, 1 in J League 2, scored both of those. He only taken 1 for us, he missed it. So he's not exactly renowned for penalties. I agree, your main striker should be a penalty taker, but there's obviously something going on there as well. But we need to sort the penalty situation out, and fast.
Yeah, well, their keeper did make quite a lot of good saves in both halves.
He did,
really.
He did,
well.
but Palmer should tuck the one away. Like, I thought Palmer had a pretty good game, but he should tuck the rebound away. He's just straight. It's a good save, but it's straight down the middle at him.
You see how Turnbull just stood there
well
with his hands over his mouth while everybody else frantically tried to score from the rebound. It was kind of a comedy moment.
He's probably thinking about the celebration. He's probably going, that was a bad idea. But unlike David, I think he's entitled to do that. But if he does it, he's got to then put the penalty in the net, and he does it, so he comes in for a bit of cop after that.
And then into the second half, O'Reilly, who you just mentioned, he had a couple of good moments, but he was passing back more than usual, I felt, in the first half anyway, and looking a little bit ragged. David, were you surprised that he was hooked?
No, from the point of view that I thought he looked tired. I thought maybe he's been outplaying himself, and maybe from the point of view of just get this guy rested. I mean, maybe the view from the bench was we're going to go through this, grind this out, get a dirty win again. Take the boy off and get some new legs on there, because he looked tired throughout the game, Matt O'Reilly, and he's been, our top man, our top player, arguably in all of our recent games. So getting subbed, if you'd have said before the game Matt O'Reilly's going to come off, then yeah, that would have surprised me, but not through his performance on the night.
Yeah, I have to say I agree with you. What about the other substitutions then, Paul? How do you think they worked?
Well, I was pretty pleased with all the substitutions, to be honest. Let's have a quick run through. So Yang and Maida were the first on, so changed the wingers. Immediately, that Maida gives that threat down the side, and we look to get the ball into him. But the eye catcher was Yang, right? So he started pretty well when at the beginning of the season when he came on. He obviously had that assist at Pataudry, and then he looked like he was going to produce, and it sort of, he was a bit style over substance. He didn't really have the end product, but he looked like he might produce something. Obviously, I think good man management from Rodgers. I think he's pulled him out of the fray when the heat started to come on, and he's bided his time a little bit, and that's probably, you can say that's maybe why he's used Forrest. He knows what he's going to get from Forrest, and he knows it's diminishing returns, but he knows Forrest can handle it. He's been there and done that. So threw Yang back in, and he was a brilliant cameo. What was he? He's on 56 minutes, so he's on for nearly 40 minutes once you add in the extra time. Every time he got the ball, he looked dangerous. He was going inside and outside. He was getting to the byline. He was cutting things back. He would have shot bent around the post. It just didn't come back enough. I thought it was right back to the kind of player we thought we were gonna be getting. But you can't go past, for me, Home and O's contribution. I'll get to Owen in a second, or maybe we'll discuss that in more detail. Like you guys have a chat. But I've been really impressed in the small cameos we've seen of Home. Obviously, the Russia Blood to Head and Feyenoord didn't do him any favors, but he's a young lad. I'll give him a pass on that. He looks like, to me, the one player that can step in and replace Hatate. Now, I'm not saying he's at the same level as Hatate, but he can see a pass. He's forward thinking. He loves the ball on the half turn. He plays head up football, and his link up play for the goal is really, really good. And he should have had 2 assists if Kyogo had tucked away the one at the end. And while I've got lots to say on O, and we may or may not get into this, but if it was O that missed that chance that Kyogo did, Twitter would have been alight with he'd have been hung, drawn, and quartered. But Kyogo, there's barely a mention because the points are in the bag. He just got a bit too cute. He should have stuck it away. It's a great reaction save by the keeper. I'll say that. But 1-on-1, he's got to bury that. So, props to all the subs. And I think we'll see some of those converted to starts, or I'd certainly like to see some of those converted to starts up in Dingwall, but we'll get to that.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, the moment of the match then, David, a match that Rodgers called it a grind in the post-match interview. And it was one of those games, a real grinder. Were you relieved when the home O combination came off?
I
think there was
terrible.
Did you like work for the Sun before or something like that? Like as a headline?
I don't know what you mean. I'm just asking you if the home O combination came off for you. Were you relieved when that occurred?
Yeah, I was, because I felt that we'd been grinding it out somewhat. But as Paul has said, I think the substitutions made that difference. There was a change in attitude, tempo, and stuff. And I think for me in particular, I think has shown some worth for inclusion in maybe the next games to see whether or not he can play that link up with Kyogo as well. I thought Paul's gone through Holmes' contribution. I thought he was excellent as he came on. So they were the kind of, the bright lights of an otherwise very dull game. So relief, to have got the result. But maybe that's what we do as champions. Maybe this is it's that part of the season, post-European games, that we're starting to see this. But it may be a very long period through the winter with our squad and the rotations that we can make.
Well, sticking with O for a while, Paul, I think has more to say. But before we do, let's pause for a little musical break. Now, this has been in the vault for ages. So as you will hear, it's outdated, but it's a measure of how little success O has had this season that it hasn't been played yet, because it's optimistic in its tone, which you'll be glad to hear. And it's kind of meant to sound like it's the fans. And it's also very short. So short and sweet. A big Korean guy. He scores them on the floor and in the sky. With jets on the wing, we have dreams and songs to sing. We've got all the big Korean guy. Short and sweet.
It's obviously all the
sweet.
I like how you said it's supposed to be the fans, which is presumably why the vocal is so bad. But also, obviously, Jota is long gone, so you've obviously had that in the vault for a very long time.
Just over the summer, even before the first episode, just when the idea was
right. Okay.
A twinkle in the eye.
And in all that time, you never thought about producing something better, given some of the content you've done since.
I've actually seen I've seen the show mentioned online in some other forums and on Twitter, and the comments are, these guys don't take themselves too seriously. It's kind of, where we've ended the title, right?
There's lots of similar comments coming up. FFS, what was that? So fantastic. Fabulous.
It must be fabulous
song. Yeah. I think that means. Okay, great. All right, Paul, you've got a fair bit to say on O. I've just made a song that's I just released a new single about O that's positive in tone. My attitude is always about evidence-based thinking, and I've always just said I've never seen the evidence. That I haven't seen enough evidence from him. You say he doesn't get enough game time. Those two ideas are compatible. Talk to me about what you want to see from O going forward, or what crack he should get.
Well, I think context is really important here, right? So he was signed in the back end of January this year. He then went on to have, I think, 7 goals in average in 86, a goal every 86 minutes on the Range. Contributed some important ones, that late diving header, the one round the corner at Tynecastle. There seems to be a kind of rewritten sort of position on O that he only scored when he came on off the bench. The games were already won. Nothing was important. It's easy to score in those games, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just chronically lazy and unfair. He produced very early on for Ange. Then he had his whole, everything was on like completely turned upside down. He gets a new manager. He's still a young kid. First 40 outside of his home country. And game time has been extremely limited under Rodgers. I think I read something that he's had less than 120 minutes this season. So, and all in tiny little pockets. I think his longest run was he played, I think, 20 odd minutes against Livingston when we were down to 10 men after Hart got sent off early. So he's pretty much asked to really just defend, where we were. He got 10 minutes against Feyenoord. We're down to 9 by that point. He's had zip really time in the game. When he is coming on, yes, the opposition's tired, but so are our key guys. And in fact, some of our key guys are already off the pitch. So he doesn't have the set. Like, look at this. Look at the touches and service Kyogo's getting this season. Not many and not great. And he's a superstar. And O is expected to live up to that and beyond, because when he comes on, we're usually trying to dig ourselves out of a hole. And the service is even poorer to him when he comes on. And I just think it's completely unfair. He showed enough to me in the second half of last season after he signed that there's a player in there. He's young. He's raw. The other thing about strikers, and we all know this, the longer you go without a goal, the more difficult it gets. You get edgy, nervous, you're rushing things, you're snatching at things. And if the chances aren't coming, that just builds and builds, and you can feel that pressure. And when the whole of the Celtic fan base, near enough, is on your back, it takes a bold kid to kind of keep going and keep plugging away. And he got one chance last night, and he absolutely nailed it. It was, he's only 12 yards out, but it's a great pass into him.
The
first touch,
got to be
great,
happy for him.
and he lashes it in the top corner. And I just think that might get the monkey off the back, and this might be the catalyst to push on. And you've seen our group chat today. Steve doesn't think this at all. He's very anti this view, but we've got to rotate the squad. We've seen us rest players in this game. We've got Atletico's Tuesday. It's coming around super quick. Must be feeling confident. Dingwall's a physical game. They'll try and get him in, start him, put Kyogo on the bench, or even put Kyogo in, like, dropping deep, either or, but start him, give him a crack against a physical team, let him, give him an opportunity, because he's our only spare striker. And to me, it's kind of shit or bust with him. And you're not going to get him any better sitting on the bench. He's got to get minutes to get better. And it's a perfect opportunity to capitalize on some confidence and stick him in from the start up at Dingwall. And then you've either got Kyogo sitting deeper, or you've got him on the bench as a backup. That's my main points.
Okay, I like it. A few comments here. Michael Ross, I don't know what he's getting at there. Brian Brennan saying that song escaped, was never released. John Clement, wish I had a copy of the O song for Halloween. Would have scared the winds away from the front door. Okay. Now then, before we finish off on this game, what else do we have to talk about? As you said, home also provided for Kyogo, who could have proven me and Pam right to call it 3-1. But as you say, he kind of overthought it or something. But again, the keeper got his hand to it.
It's a great save. It is a good save.
Kyogo will be disappointed with that. But that keeper, Zach Hemming, he's only 23. He's on loan from Middlesbrough. 188 centimeters, 6'2". He was the man of the match, was he, from a neutral's perspective? David?
Yeah, I thought he did really well. Handled anything that came his way. I don't think he had much chance with the goals that we scored super powerful shots going in, right? So, yeah, well, are you thinking for us for a third keeper?
Oh no, just I've just got him on my scouting list.
Right.
It was one game. I'd never laid eyes on him or been aware of him before, but I thought he equipped himself pretty well. And he's only young. Other final thoughts on the game? Well, a couple of sort of side issues. Funny how everyone can say Gogic, but only about 30% of Celtic fans can say Rogic. That's one thing. And how many times did Peter Grant say we need to move the ball quickly in the commentary? You noticed that, I'm sure. Bloody, that's all
his favorite. It's his favorite. It's his favorite. That and did you know I used to work with Matt O'Reilly and I know his family. They are his two favorite things. That's pretty much that standard. Are we going to speak about John Beaton?
Yes, I see he's in the comments. Let me pull up a couple of these.
I think for me, the major talking point isn't the penalty. It's a Stonewaller. He's got to give it. It's that ridiculous booking on Kyogo. Absolutely ridiculous booking on Kyogo. You know the one I'm talking about.
That ridiculous. I know the guy was getting in his way, but Kyogo does have a wee cheeky kick at him.
Come on.
That's why Beaton gave it. It wasn't in a vacuum.
He nudges him in the back and he collapses in a heap. There's no kick. There's no kick.
No, he does. He throws the wee foot at him, a wee cheeky foot.
Beg to differ. But the defenders deliberately the defenders deliberately obstructing. That's the first offense.
Sure, I accept that.
He's zigzagging.
Yeah. I'm just saying why Beaton get. I mean, Beaton's looking for any reason. Like the penalty, he looks at it and he's like, "Oh God damn it! I can't not give this penalty. This is definitely a penalty. Damn, there's nothing I can do." So he was pretty quick to jog back and award it. That's called walking, Gav, says Strangelove the doctor. Perhaps he needs a visit to the doctor then.
Moving his legs, I think he means.
Sorted out. Ministry of Silly Walks. Only joking, Strangelove. Okay, so I think that's enough on the game, unless anyone has anything they really need to get off their chest, do you? Okay. So, quick message to everyone to help us grow the channel. Here's a question. If you're watching us now, do you follow us on Twitter? If not, give us a follow. You can see the handle. It's part of what's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. And help us out with retweets. After every show, I clip a few of the more shareable moments and then tweet them out. So imagine if you guys all got, quote, reposted those with a message like, have you been watching this show? It's great. The host is very handsome, charismatic. I mean, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything, but...
And a wonderful vocalist.
Oh, no, there's no need to lie. It's fine. Okay, let's move on to the big issue, GB News. Now then, the board have banned the Green Brigade. How are we going to talk about this? I don't think we should spend terribly long on it. Let me introduce it by doing this, okay? I'm going to share the screen now. And we're going to talk about a tweet from John Yogi Hughes, who you will know from Axom. And his tweet is, I don't know if you can see that, I'll make it full screen. His tweet's very well written, very interesting. I'm not going to read it all out, but what I found was the comments to it are quite good insofar as they paint a picture of the sort of range of opinions. You can see who's writing these. I'll just quickly run through them. It's past time that the fans starved the board of the only thing they're interested in, money. Start with a boycott of all club merchandise, especially at Christmas. Another comment, 5 points ahead in the league, biggest rivals struggling, and manager seems to be getting more comfortable in the role and winning over the doubters. And the board managed to press the self-destruct button. Another saying, I, for one, won't be going back until they're back in. The board make me sick. And then Anthony says, I can remember the atmosphere at home games before the Green Brigade came into being. It was like sitting in a public park watching a Sunday league game. So they're all sort of referencing what the board are doing and anti-board comments, it's fair to say, but there's a range of opinions across the board. Green Brigade bring it on themselves at the Motherwell game attempting force open emergency exit doors to allow their pals in. Palestinian thing aside, they think they're above the rules that every other fan abides by. Pig watches their deflection of their own bad behaviour. And then Schrodinger's cat says, I've stopped going to away games due to Green Brigade behaviour at almost every ground. No fan of the board, but something needs to be done. Lawwell or lawless, neither sits well with me. So that's Schrodinger's cat having two seemingly opposing scenarios existing at the same time, which is quite appropriate. Philosophy fans out there. Okay, so where do we start with that, Paul? What can we add to that?
I think the main thing I want to add is that it's just really disappointing. Now, there's been lots and lots of talk and speculation over the rights, wrongs, and rationale. But if you want and are happy to embrace an ultras group in fan base, and I think the club are more than happy to take the good stuff that comes with an ultras group, then you've got to accept that they're going to push the boundaries of the regulations. That's just how it's likely to roll. So with anything like this, it's about mediation. You want to get you want to get people around the table. That's the only way it's going to get resolved. And yeah, hopefully we can get that done.
Paul's breaking up there, David. Is he breaking up for you?
Yeah. So I could hear his vocals just right up until there when you came in. But I'll take over and just start talking a little bit about this. I'm actually, one of the things that really bothers me is that somehow in all of this, that people are actually dying on a daily basis here. And somehow what happens at Celtic is in any way important in relation to all of that. And that these people cannot get themselves together and sort out these difficulties, if there are any, really. I'll come to a post from Matt McGlone later. I think we're going to go through that later. But they need to get themselves sorted and stop from either side bringing Celtic into a focus when the other stuff is just way more important than anything that we do here. And the idea that there can't be mediation and things sorted, disappointing from the board and conflating things together. If there were safety concerns, they should have addressed those. If there's a disruption in terms of their rights to fly Palestinian flags, and that's it. But Green Brigade have to behave in terms of opening gates, etc. If that's what's been happening, I don't know. I haven't seen it. But from my point of view, we've got to get something sorted very quickly for this and allow much more important matters to dominate news.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you can see, there's also a range of differing views in the comments there. Yeah, it's all very unfortunate, isn't it? I had another one.
Unavoidable, I think, in each case, just by behaviour and approach to this, both from the Green Brigade and from the board. Both avoidable.
Okay. I think I just received a WhatsApp. This is exciting, isn't it? We'll see if it's from
Paul.
I'm wondering if it's from Paul explaining the situation. I'll tell you what we'll do. We will play a video made by one of our very talented contributors here at the Celtic World.
Right, we have those. Okay.
We do. And it's about the Kuala Lumpur Celtic Supporters Club.
Even better.
I'll just play that and hopefully Paul will be back by the time this is complete.
Everyone, it's David, a Celtic World's Malaysia correspondent, and I'm here at the Twin Towers in the heart of Kuala Lumpur, and I'm going to take you from here to the Kuala Lumpur Celtic Supporters Club in Ampang. We'll see you there. Well, I hope you enjoyed that short journey. Now you know how close we are to the centre of town. There's no reason not to come visit us, see the game, and I'll see you soon on A Celtic World. And remember to like and subscribe when you're there. Hail, hail.
Fantastic, David. Well
I
done.
had fun making that.
You went past a few embassies. Now, this was also made before everything kicked off. So you were
This
showing
was
us
made
the-
some weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So
It
what
struck me
embassies
that
did you
point
stop
was-
at?
The Vatican one, of course, and then obviously the Palestine one. But pretty much all of the embassies are in. There are some. The US one is sort of closer into town, but most of the embassies are around this part of town, and certainly the domestic residences of the ambassadors, all of which are rather stunning, and a lot of which look onto golf courses. So if you want a career move, folks, perhaps diplomatic service is where you should go.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's something anyone can break into. There's no sort of jobs for the
Elitism?
boys.
No, I don't
Yeah,
think so.
no elitism.
I think it's just
But speaking of elitism, one of our chief contributors has returned. Paul, come in, Paul. Nano.
Hopefully you can hear me again. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, you were a little bit jumpy earlier, but not you, but your connection. So it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
Did you
It looks like
happen
we
to
have-
see? Do you happen to see any of that video, by the way?
I didn't. You were just saying well done to David as I arrived back. So well done, David. I'm sure it was excellent. I'll watch it when I
Pete
catch
McKee.
up the gap that I missed.
I well remember a car trip to the airport in Kale during a massive monsoon, scariest trip ever. Well, there is currently some pretty scary weather going on in Malaysia. It was chucking it down all day, wind blowing, thunder. You probably heard thunder a few moments ago where David is. So
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
chucking it down right now. So yeah, Pete. I mean, in the street that I'm on, we have the sort of drainage system which tends to protect the houses and the bars and whatever else there. But I've seen that street and have cars swept down that street just from heavy rain, and it's torrential for very short periods of time, and then just utter chaos is left behind.
yeah, I mean it's proper rain here, isn't it? It's no joke. But then you dry off pretty quickly once you get out of it. That's the beauty. All right. Let's move on to the next game that we face, Ross County. Paul, let's test if you're hearing and your knowledge when I ask you the question for bonus points. What's the current name of Ross County Stadium?
I have no idea. I've absolutely
David?
no idea.
It's the Global Energy Stadium
There you
in
go.
Dingwall. Not very exciting. The club's nickname is the Staggies, taken from their badge, which is a stag's head. This, in turn, was taken from the regimental badge of the Seaforth Highlanders, the regiment in which many locals had fought and died during the Great War. There's a couple of my fascinating facts, and we'll have a couple more later on. Paul, what are you expecting from this next game? What does Celtic really need to do?
3 points. 3 points, however you can get them. Honestly, not like Dingwall's always a battle. We've had some scrambles and some late, the Burnaby smashed in shot was a late show. Obviously the Tony Ralston 97-minute header is, etched in the memory from Ange's first season. But it's always a tough game up there. That's why I'm saying, give O a crack. He's physical. They'll try and rough us up. They've got that Jordan White dude who's about 6'7". They'll just pump it long, and then they'll try and win free kicks and corners, and then they'll get the big massive centre backs up, and then they'll try and score from set pieces, which the teams that are below average are pretty good at. And some reason the best team in the league can't do anything from a set piece, even if it's only 12 yards out with the keeper to beat. So by any means necessary, 3 points is all I'm really looking for. I've said I want to see O start. I'd love to see home start as well. I'd sit Turnbull back down. I'd bring Maeda back. CCV's got to come back. I would give Kyogo a rest, but I'm not averse to not against him being in there as well as. But I think we should start. I think we should start with Palmer, O, and Maida up front, and a straight swap home for Turnbull and CCV back in, and it's the same team. So I think that's the team that can go and get us, 3 points, and then bring the cavalry on afterwards if needed. But yeah, that's what I would do.
That's the team that Paul thinks would do the job. David, what team do you think Brendan Rodgers is going to put out? You're on mute.
Interesting. I think we might not see that team, Paul. I think maybe we'll see Kyogo up front. I think CCV back, definitely. Amiss. Other than that, I'm not sure there'll be too many other changes taking place. I think he may only do something like that.
He's not going to start Forest, is he? Surely. Maida's got to come back in.
So Maida maybe, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're probably going to see
Is
Maida
Brian
back
complaining that his comments are never read out? Of course, Brian, you could have been on the show since we had a last-minute dropout. If you'd been alert enough, you could have been one of the 4. Okay.
You'd have had comments then.
So again, he could have made comments then.
He could have made comments then, yeah.
Well, that's our resident Irish contributor. Speaking of which, I see Ross County have an Irish defender called James Brown. When they win a corner, he can be heard saying to his fellow defenders, "Get up, get on up."
Jesus.
And also Will Nightingale. He's a name I know from his time at AFC Wimbledon, which is my London team when I lived there for years. Watching John Hartson the season he was there. I was in the stands watching. Robbie Earle, Jason Newell, Michael Hughes, Kenny Cunningham, Gareth Ainsworth, releasing black balloons protesting against the horrific decision of the FA to allow the move to Milton Keynes. Anyway,
Brian's getting rinsed in the comments.
Say again?
Brian's getting rinsed in the comments.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to put that one up.
That is funny, but the one above it is the one I meant.
Dear, oh dear, come on, look, unity, lads, unity. Let's have some togetherness. There's too much disunity among the Celtic fan base. All right, so let's have some score predictions for Ross County then, shall we? Paul?
2-0.
2-1.
David? 2-1. Yeah, I don't think Ross County are going to score against us. I'm going to go 3-0 and quite happy. A bit of a return to form. Some nice stuff played. That's what I'm going for. But not necessarily the kind of performance that'll, give us tremendous confidence going into the Atletico match. But then what would that be? An absolute hammering of Ross County. Just briefly, how do we feel about what's going on with our crosstown rivals? Do you think this manager is a bit more the real deal? You'll get a tune out of them, make them a bit more of a rival to us? David?
I mean, I think there was a kind of imposter who was there as manager before. So anybody with some true managerial experience, I think, actually can come in and lift a set of, journeyman. I think they're probably going to have a period of 1 or 2 weeks. It depends on the refs, obviously. Statistical anomalies may play a significant part in this. Quite seriously, someone needs to look at that, in my view. I only see them going another week or two with this sort of series of wins. I don't see it lasting through much longer than that, because I don't think they've got much of a squad.
Paul, you go along with that?
You got the new manager bounce, and unfortunately, because you can't get videos with sound that go all that well, I didn't come across this until earlier, but the old Brian's gun has done a new manager bounce compilation, which is very good. So there's maybe a bit of that. To David's point, you couldn't have done much worse. A bit of coaching and a bit of boost up. Well, you get something out of those players, but it's also not a great squad. Some of the players that are still, Leon Balogun came back from injury and was starting last night. Like, he's a player they got rid of 2 or 3 years. It's just, I don't know. I think with the turn of the fixtures that we've got, there you go. There's the dead cat bounce. Last time I used dead cat bounce on a different show, I got told off because somebody's cat had recently died. So that's why I avoided the dead cat bounce phrase.
Did they throw it against the wall or something?
I don't know, but I was told don't stop saying dead cat bounce because they had a cat or a cat had died. I don't know. They've got a tougher run of fixtures coming. So to David's point, I think potentially, there might be trouble ahead, but who knows? I'm not overly concerned about them. If we keep doing our job, we've got a good cushion already. I think it will probably be at least as good, if not better, by the time we meet them. And that's a home game. Get that job done, and we're well on our way at turn of the year.
Okay, so a reasonable amount of confidence on the domestic front, it's fair to say. Looking further afield from domestic bliss to our next Champions League match, we won't see each other until that game is over. So are we going to again go toe-to-toe with Atletico in their home stadium and come away with something, David? Or are they going to teach us a lesson and say, remember who the bosses are in this group?
So, yes, that's probably going to happen, actually. I think they will now, sort of with a bit more reverence than possibly they did. They came on the second half, didn't they? Upped their game, made the changes, so good managerial moves. He'll have watched and learned from that. Do we, on the other hand, I think there was a lot of confidence. I mean, it's surprising that we haven't seen it back in our league, but there's the post-European hangover. There's the lack of depth, the rotation of the squad taking place, so maybe that's why we're thinking ahead to this game, resting players. But I think the players may, again, up their game. Maybe they are psychologically preparing themselves for the big ask. So I don't know that we're going to get whipped when we get there, but I don't know that we're going to walk away with more than 1 point, I think.
What do you know, Paul?
I don't know much. I just got an opinion, but I think if we get a point again, it's a phenomenal result. It was a good result, and it was a good point at home, albeit that we were disappointed. But I think a point away is a fantastic result. Do I think we will get it? Probably not. Do I think it's possible? Absolutely. We'll definitely need a bit of luck. I think maybe some of the reason for some of these, to David's point, some of these changes and potentially weird picks is with one eye on this game. There's a lot of commentary about Nat Phillips's performance last night, and I don't think he was great. But why are we playing him? Yes, maybe to rest Cameron Carter-Vickers, but Lagerbielke has been playing for Sweden and scoring for Sweden and can't even make the bench. So why are we using a lone player unless we've got plans for him for something else? So I wouldn't be surprised to see Rodgers pull a different formation out of the bag. He might even go 3/5 at the back and just really try and be solid and try and nick something on the break with Maida and Kyogo's pace. I really wouldn't be surprised to see that kind of formation put out in what will be our toughest away game. So yeah, cautiously optimistic as always. You never go to these games thinking you can't get anything. I'd be very surprised if we get more than a point, but fingers crossed. There's a big result coming at some point, so it would be great if it was this one.
Okay, here's a comment from Pete McGee that I should have put up immediately upon seeing it because it's a reference to something you said. Do you know what that refers to, Paul?
There may be trouble ahead. Did I say that?
Yes, you did. Well done. That's good.
Well, I'm kind of known as a bit of I kind of back myself on the music stuff, so I didn't notice I'd said it, but I get the musical reference, so I work myself backwards.
Very good. So, how about score predictions for Atletico, Paul?
I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, so we're going to have to score. If I'm brutally honest, I don't think this will happen, but I'm going to say one each. Try and be optimistic. I think we'll probably get beat over there, but there you go.
We may all be saying exactly the same thing, David.
I think I think they're going to take care of business, and I think 2-1 to them. I think we hopefully score. We've got enough in there to do that and walk away with some credit, but I don't see us coming back with much.
Yeah, you get into trouble on this show if you don't predict a good outcome for Celtic.
3-1 at Celtic.
No,
7-0.
no, it's not.
7-0.
I'll take your first answer.
I've not got a hat on, but I'll say 7-0.
Yeah, I'm going to say
Aye.
2-0 to Atletico and quickly move on before I get too much hate in the comments. Because as Frank Brennan says, there's optimism and then there's gross stupidity. But you certainly can't accuse Frank of optimism, that's for sure. All right. So just realism, Gav. Realism will be his next comment. Okay, fantastic. Right. Well, we're coming up on the hour, so Celtic socials time. Why don't you go first, Paul?
Yeah, so this is Maga Boy, which is Kevin McCluskey from Axum. He's basically been working on this, I think, in the background, but it's an expected points table after the nearly first full round of fixtures. Obviously, some teams have only played 10 games. I've seen that. I saw this posted and retweeted quite a bit, but just it was quite interesting. You know, a lot of people don't like the XG and all of that stuff, and you know, there's a place for it, I think, but I think it can be overanalyzed. But this thing is quite interesting that, you know, there's a bit of negativity, I think, in the Celtic support because we haven't just been smashing everybody, but 11 games in, 9 wins, 2 draws, the only team undefeated. This basically shows that we're punching a little bit above our weight. We're probably, I think this is suggesting we're sort of 3 and a bit point, well, you can round points out, 3 points better off than we should be. And Rangers are probably underperforming by close to 5 points. The below us, there's a whole lot of movement. Look at St Mirren, they're 10th in this table, but they're playing at 3rd. So there's stats for stats' sakes, and then there's actual information. The thing that you've got to overlay this is the variables, the away games, the stadiums we've been to, all of that sort of stuff, and the chopping and changing in defence. And even throughout the team, we've not really had a settled team for injuries and other bits and pieces. So I think what it tells you as a bare minimum is we've overperformed in the first quarter of the season. And I think, again, to the point, 5 points clear at this point, would say we're all happy. We should all be happy with that. Yes, it'd be lovely if it was even further, but let's not get too greedy given we're still in a transition period. I just thought it was an interesting little stat and table, and yeah, let's try and glass half full rather than half empty.
Gav, you're on mute.
Sorry, there's a dog barking. How do you feel about that, David?
I think there's a number of factors that we need to say that the injury, the change of manager, the poor transfer window. I think what then happened was Brendan Rodgers started to become the manager we knew him to be, and I'm not sure. So we probably at the beginning of the season, we probably were getting what our just deserves in many ways in terms of our performance. Looks like we've somehow slipped into that team again. But there's been a period there of really tremendous individual play, team play, and managerial. So I think we're going to do fine. And I think we will continue. What we haven't seen, I don't think we've seen yet from this team, is a steady, fully fit, gelled, and clear first team. Yeah, and I think that will come probably over the next 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay. Well, let's move on from that. And here's a question for the people in the comments. Can you identify this ground? In the comments before you say anything, David. Let's see if anyone can call it. Looks gorgeous. This is pics by Pedro, who I've featured before on the show. Does some amazing.
I think I know that. I think I know this one.
I think I know this
maybe.
one. I think I know this one.
I'm pretty sure I know this one as well.
Just want to give somebody a chance to say it before you guys jump in. Should put a countdown up, should I? 10-second countdown. All right. Answers. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Were you about to say this?
I was.
Yeah.
It's their new ground.
Correct.
And that's I think that's known as the Rock, is it? I think maybe.
The
Barton Rock.
I mean, gorgeous photographs. Look at the foreboding sky. And this
do
is
you know what that rock is?
Yes, well, we're about to show you.
No.
There's Dumbarton, first of all, which it looks very remote. When I first saw that picture, I thought that place must be remote, whatever that ground is. It's not remote at all, of course. Dumbarton's just on the banks of the Clyde. That rock is Dumbarton Castle, you're about to tell us, David?
No, I'm going to tell you that it was the conduit of a volcano. So what you see there is the remains of the middle conduit of a volcano. And if you're coming down from Glasgow and you're looking on the train, you look across the Clyde, leading up to this point, you can actually see the individual lava flows. If you look in particular during the winter, it gets accentuated. So there you go.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, this is a wall that runs around the rock. It's the site of Dumbarton Castle. I think that's the only building that remains. You can see the ground is there. But beautiful picture. Look at that.
Because this is the new ground, right? There used to be the old ground was Boghead, excuse me, Boghead, and then this I think replaced it.
Boghead.
Boghead, I think. I think I'm right in saying that. I think I've pulled that from the back of the brain in the annals of time. But I think I think it's a relatively new ground. Well, we're talking about my mum's hometown, Dumbarton. So yeah, and while we're on about Dumbarton, I might as well throw this in as well. First club of the Rhino, Murdo MacLeod.
Very good. I like it.
And St Patrick's obviously from Dumbarton as well.
St Patrick, dear saint of our isle.
Well, one legend has it he's from Dumbarton. I kid you not.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier on Matt McGlone, David, so take it away with yours.
Yeah, so Matt was obviously during the time of the saving Celtic days, and he was an organizer of all of the interested party fans and did a tremendous job on our behalf at that time. And Matt has said, and I think to my point earlier about what's more important about this just can be mediation done to get this sorted so that we can talk about more important things than what's been consuming us with the Green Brigade and the board. And yeah, get Matt in there and get him to have them sitting down and talking and getting over this. Gav, you're on mute.
Gav.
Sorry, these goddamn dogs behind me are going crazy. Trying to spare the listener. Yeah, well, let's get this all behind us and get pulling in the right direction. One would like, that's very good. I think he means moot point, so it doesn't really work. Sorry, Pete.
It's a play on words. Come on, you love a play on words, Gav. That's very good. I enjoyed that.
Got to get it right. Pete's been going mad in the comments today, hasn't he? I saw Red Scotland was asking about is it an inch petrified tree remain? Did you see that? About the Dumbarton picture?
No, there are examples of that, but no. Ancient tree.
Well, that's everybody's homework in time for the next show. Okay, so I think that just about does it for today. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts, and thanks for everyone in the comments. It's been most entertaining. So the next time we see each other, 2 more games will have elapsed, so we'll have plenty to catch up on with each other. Let's hope they go swimmingly, And until next time, gents, I bid you adieu. Cheerio, Paul.
But yeah.
Cheerio, David.
Cheerio.
And cheerio, everyone. See you on the next show.